In this Django tutorial, I'll show you how to set up authentication for a Django website, specifically how to create new user accounts, sign into those user accounts, and then sign out. I'll also talk to you about user permissions and groups, so how to assign specific permissions to users and restrict parts of our websites to those users. For example, in the website that we're going to build out here, we're going to have two groups of users, a default user and a mod user. The default user will have the ability to post and to delete posts that they've created themselves. And then the mod user will have the ability to delete anyone's posts because they're moderating the website, as well as to ban users. And if a user becomes banned, then they will no longer have the ability to post, but they'll still be able to view specific posts. So this will give you a really in-depth and kind of thorough understanding of the Django permission system and grouping, and allow you to do a lot of advanced stuff on your website and manage different users. Lastly, I will also show you how we build out a really cool dashboard where we can view all of our different users, see what groups they are in, change the groups of users really simply from this dashboard, as well as view some statistics like the new users per day, the number of posts per user, what type of users we have, so default users, mod users, and view it all from one page. Now, this dashboard that I have in front of me is going to be built using something called Retool. Now, we'll slowly build this out throughout the video, but I do need to mention that Retool is the sponsor of this video. They are free to use. You do not have to pay for this, and it just allows us to really easily visualize our different data. And for people that aren't programmers to come in here and actually say, make a modification to our database and affect our application without having to go into the Django shell, type in lines of code. And we can also do stuff like add charts and add graphs and a bunch of other customizations that we can't really do from a regular Django admin page. So yes, some of this stuff is going to be redundant with Django admin, but again, if you weren't a programmer, this is going to be a much more preferred way to go in and view the database, change different aspects of the database, like which users are in which groups, and then create some different charts and statistics and really anything you want. Anyways, let me give you a quick demo of what we're going to build out here. I apologize for the long intro, but it is necessary to talk about this. So here you can see that we have a simple website where users are able to sign in. Right now I'm signed in as Joey, and I can do something like create a post. So let's just say tutorial, I am demoing the app, ! Let's make a post. Okay, post has been created. Now let's go and log out here, and let's sign in as the user Tech with Tim, which is a super user. And notice here that this user has the ability to delete anyone's posts, even posts that they have not made themselves, and to ban users. Now, of course, I can't ban myself, but we just have the button there anyways. So let's do something like ban Joey. And if I ban Joey now, let's log out and let's sign in as Joey. And now notice that if I try to make a post here, so no, I don't want to save that. You'll see that I'm not allowed to do that. Now we can make a custom page for this. For now, I've just made it forbidden. I'm still able to delete my own post because I have that permission, but I no longer have the permission to make a post. Now, if I sign in as a different user, let's sign in as, say, Susan here. You will see that I have the ability to delete anyone's post. And the reason I can do that is because if I go here, Susan is a mod. So since Susan is the mod, they can't ban anyone, but they have the ability to delete anyone's post. So I could delete Joey's post. I can delete the admin's post. We could change that if we want to. But the point is we have different users that have different permissions, and that changes what they're able to do on the website. Obviously, kind of a more advanced thing, but that's what I want to show you in this video. So anyways, with that said, that is enough for this intro. I apologize that this was long. Now let's head over to Visual Studio Code and start working on this project. All right, so I'm inside of VS Code, and now we can go ahead and get started. So there's a few setup steps that we need to go through. We're going to start by installing everything, kind of setting up a boilerplate Django application, linking our URLs and views and all of that. Then we're going to create a remotely hosted database using Postgres. I'll talk about that when we get to that step. Then we will build out the website, we'll build out the dashboard and all of the other stuff that we need to do. So to get started, I've created a folder here called Django User Management Tutorial. Doesn't really matter where you place it, but I've opened it in VS Code. Feel free to use any editor you want, but I'm just going to use VS Code. Now I'm inside of this directory here, which is going to be important for the next step. But first we need to install a few modules. So since we're working with a Django website, I'm going to pip install Django. Now I already have that, so I'm not going to run that command. If that doesn't work for you, try pip3. If that doesn't work for you, try python-m pip install. If that doesn't work for you, try python3-m pip install. If none of those work, I will leave 2 videos on the screen that show you how to fix the pip command. Now, since we're here at this step, we're also going to install a few other things. We're going to type pip install, and then we are going to install crispy, and actually, I don't know if this is what it's called. It's going to be crispy hyphen bootstrap 5 like that. Now this is going to allow us to have some pre-built forms that we can render on the screen using Bootstrap. So that's why we're installing this. And then you also want to install Crispy Forms, although this should already be installed when you install Crispy Bootstrap. So just install this in case. It will probably tell you it's already there, but let's just make sure that we have that before we move on. Okay, so now that we installed that, Django, Crispy Bootstrap 5, and Crispy Forms, we can create a Django project. Now, I will mention here that this tutorial is not meant for complete beginners in Django. I do have a ton of Django tutorials on my channel, so you can check those out if you're getting a little bit lost here with what I'm doing, but I'm going to kind of skim over some of the explanations of the most basic stuff. Regardless, though, let's create a project here. So I'm going to say Django admin, and then this is going to be start project, and the name of this project can be whatever you want. I'm going to call mine website. Now, make sure you run this command in the directory where you want this folder to be created. So in this case, I'm running it in this directory. That's where I want it to be. But if you want it on your desktop, then you'd make sure the path here is desktop. You just have to navigate through your terminal or command prompt to get to the right path. Okay, so let's run that. Now we see that we get this website directory. And inside of the website folder, inner folder, we have all of our files here that are containing the stuff that we need, as well as manage.py. So now that we've done that, we want to make an application for our Django project. So I'm going to cd into website, and I'm going to type the following, Python, and this is going to be manage.py, and then start app, and then I'm going to call my app main. Now you can call your app whatever you'd like, but if you do change the name from main, then you're going to have to tweak some other things. So I'd recommend you just call it main for now to follow along. So make sure you're inside of the website directory where the manage.py file is. And you type Python manage.py, start app, and then main, and then you'll see it makes this main directory here. And in case you're unfamiliar, the app is where we're going to write most of the logic for our website, and we're going to kind of link the app to the main website. So the way that we do that is inside a website, we go to settings.py, and there's this thing called installed apps. Now, the app that we just made is called main, so we need to throw that in here. So the way we do that is we type main.apps. And then main config. Now, if you're wondering where this is, if you go to main and you look at apps.py, you can see we're referencing this main config class right here. So that's what we're adding in here, main.apps.mainconfig. Of course, if you change the name of your app, maybe it was auth or something, then you need to change this, and it would be auth.apps.authconfig, okay? And if you want to check, then again, you can go to apps.py and you'll see exactly what the name is. Okay. So now that we have that installed apps, we're also going to add a few other installed apps, specifically the Crispy Forms and Crispy Bootstrap 5 that we had before. So we'll start with Crispy_Forms because we're going to want to use that later. And then we will add Crispy_Bootstrap 5 like that, so that it styles our forms with Bootstrap and they look nicer than the default forms. Okay, now that we have that inside of settings.py, that's all we need for right now. We've linked the main app to the website. So let's just run our server and make sure everything's working. So I'm going to type Python manage.py run server. And when I do that, you should see that we're getting this running on our localhost port 8000. So I'm going to control click on that to open it up. And let's go to our browser here. Let me bring this over. And you can see this install worked successfully. Congratulations. And you're seeing this page because debug equals true. Okay, that's fine. And we have not configured any URLs. So next, what we're going to do is configure some URLs. So let me close this server here. Although I could have kept it running because when you keep it running, it will just update when you change stuff. But that's fine for now. Okay, so we have some URLs inside of urls.py. And actually, before I do this, let's make a new file here in our main app called urls.py. So what we need to do essentially is link the URLs from this main app to our actual website so that we can access the different views from our main app. So I guess we can really start wherever we want. Let's just start here. We're going to import something called include alongside path. And we're going to put a new path here. And this is just going to be an empty path. And this is going to go to, and then this is going to be include. And we're going to put main.urls like that. Now, what this is saying is that the prefix is going to be nothing. and we want to get all of the URLs from main.urls and access them with, well, this prefix, which is nothing. So that essentially means that now any URLs we put inside of this file, so the urls.py file, we'll be able to access on our website. And notice we already have these admin URLs, which are pre-built for us, which kind of give us the admin panel and admin page, which we'll have a look at later. For now, though, let's go to URLs. And let's actually set up the URLs inside of here. So what we need to write here is from Django import, and then this is going to be path, and then from dot views import, not from dot views, from import views. Now dot is referencing the current directory because this is a Python package by the presence of the init.py file, and so we're able to access this views file. Okay, so now we're going to type URL patterns is equal to a list. And this is where we can place all of the URLs for our app. So for now, I just want a URL for the home page. So I'm going to type path. We're just going to make it an empty path. So when you go to the default page, this is what shows up. And we want to display the views.home function, which is a function we've yet to create. Okay, so that's what we need for that. Now we want to go to the views file, which is going to contain all of our different views. And here we want to write the home view. So we're just going to say define home. We're going to take in request. We don't need star args and star quargs. Okay, and then for now, we can just return a string, and we can just put a p tag in here that says home. And in a minute, we'll write all of the templates, so the HTML that we actually want to render from these different views. So actually, quick cut here. I remembered that we can't actually do this. I'm used to working in Flask where this works. This is going to cause an error for us. So what we need to do is actually make a template. A template is just HTML essentially that we're going to be rendering onto the screen. So we need to do that before we can actually view anything from this route. So let's go into this main app, and it's very important here that you name everything what I'm about to name it. Sorry, I keep opening and closing this, but let's make a folder here. And this folder needs to be named templates, and it needs to be inside of the main app. If you name it something else, then it's not going to work. So we're putting templates inside of here. Then we need to make another new folder. And this folder needs to be the name of your app, and I'm going to call this main, okay? And then while we're at it, we're going to make one other folder, and we're going to call this registration. And we'll have a look at that in a second, but this is going to contain all of our authentication URLs or authentication templates, sorry. Okay, so we have main and we have registration. We're going to go inside of main, and we're going to make a template here called base.html, and we're going to make another template here called home.html. Now, Django uses something called Jinga, which is a templating engine, Jinja. I'm probably pronouncing that incorrectly. But what this allows us to do is write what's known as a base template. And the base template can contain like a navigation bar and, default stuff that we want on every single web page. And then what we can do is inherit from that template in specific templates like home.html and just override parts of it. Like we can override the main content of the page without changing, for example, the nav bar. So this is going to take a minute here, but we're going to write the HTML. Now, someone showed me a shortcut here. I might not type it exactly correct, but if you go here to the language, if you're working in VS Code, this only works in VS Code. I believe if you have like the HTML extension, I think that's what you need. But most of you will probably have this. But if you change the language to just regular HTML, apparently you can type HTML:5 like this. Yeah, okay, you can see it. And it actually generates a kind of boilerplate template for you. So this is actually what we want. So this is good. We'll start with this for now. And we want to write the rest of this base template. Now, what I want to do is add Bootstrap here so we can use Bootstrap for styling. Of course, you can style with whatever you want, but it's just the easiest way for tutorials for me at least. So let's go here. Yeah, it's because this isn't running. That's fine. And let's just type in boot. And I always spell this wrong. Bootstrap. Okay, come on. And let's go to Bootstrap here. So here from the Bootstrap website, we can click on Get Started, and we can just copy the CDN, which is this right here. So I'm going to click on Copy, as well as the different scripts that we need for Bootstrap. So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to put this into my head tag. So put this link right here. Again, you could just search up Bootstrap, click on Get Started, and then copy the link, put that in the head tag. Then what we need to do is copy a few scripts, and we need to put those in the body. So let's go back here to Bootstrap. Okay, for Bootstrap, it says if you decide to go with separate scripts, okay, include every Bootstrap JavaScript plugin and dependency with one of our two bundles. Okay, I think we can just copy this one right here for the bundle, and this will give us everything that we need as opposed to copying the separate scripts. So let's do that. And just at the bottom of our body, or I guess in our body here, we're just going to paste in this script. And now we have added Bootstrap to our website. So now that we've done that, I'll talk to you a little bit about template inheritance and how we override parts of this base template from another template. So for now, let's close that. And what we're going to do here is create something called a block. So I'm going to type %% like this, block, and then I'm going to give the block a name, and I'm going to call it title. Now, what this does is it sets up a part of this HTML page here that can be overridden from a page that inherits this template. So let me just end the block here. So we're going to type end block, and we can put a default value in here like my site. And what this allows me to do now is go inside of this template. I can rewrite this block, and it will change what's inside of it with whatever I wrote in the home page. You'll see when we start going through the example, but for now, that's what we want. And then we're going to do the same thing inside of the body. But first, I'm going to say div. I'm going to say class is equal to, and I'm just going to make this a container, which is a class from Bootstrap. And actually, we'll make this container fluid. And then what we want to do here is place the, the block. So I'm going to do %% block content. And then I'm going to do another block here and type end block. And also, I'll just note here that all of this code will be available from the description in case you'd rather just copy this out, or not copy this out, copy it from GitHub as opposed to typing it out. And I realize I'm going to change the container back to regular container because I don't actually want this to be fluid. Okay, so now I have two blocks, a block for my title and a block for my content. And what I want to do here is just place a nav bar that will let me navigate through the website. So we're going to type nav. Let's end the nav here. We want the class here. These are going to be some Bootstrap classes to be navbar expanded, and then large like that, and then navbar. This is going to be dark, and then BG dark. If you're unfamiliar with the syntax, it's just from the Bootstrap website. You can kind of just copy it out. We're just going to get a nicely styled navbar here. We're then going to make a div. This is going to be container. And this time we want it to be fluid. Fluid makes it so it takes up the whole screen. Then we're going to make a div inside of here. Now, the first div that we have is going to contain the links on like the left-hand side of our page. And then the next div that we have is going to contain the person that's logged in. So it'll be like, the left and right side of the navbar essentially. So div here, we're going to make a UL because we're going to have some different list items here. And inside of UL, we're going to have a class, which is equal to navbar nav. So we can just have navbar nav like that. And then we want to have the different links on our navbar. So do li. The class is going to be a nav and then item like that. Although that needs to be inside of a string, and we should probably spell class correctly. Let's end our li. And then inside of this, we want to have a link. So we're going to say a class equal to nav link. We need the href to be equal to, and then in this case, I'll just make it /home. Okay, and then we'll end the link, and it will say home. Okay, so now let's copy this. Let's paste this, and now let's just have another one for creating a post. Obviously, we don't have these pages made yet, but we'll make them later. Okay, so /create post. And then there we go. We have now the left side of our navbar. So now let me copy this div and paste it again, and then we'll do a similar thing here for logging in. So let's just make a button right now, or a link that says log in, and we can deal with showing who's logged in later on. Okay, hopefully you guys are following. For now, though, that is what we have for the base template. We will add a few things to this, but for now, that's all we need. Okay, so let's go to home. And from home, we essentially just want to take everything that's inside of here, and we want to override the title so it says home, and we want to override the content so it shows like, you're on the home page, and eventually it will show all of the posts that we have. So the way that we do this is we type %% extends, and then we're going to extend, and make sure this is single quotes here, the main / and then base.html template. Okay, now that we've extended the template, that's all we need to do to extend it. We can use any of the blocks from the template. So I can do something like block title and say homepage, and then I can end the block. So %% end block like that. And then let's do another block. So %% block content, and then we will end the block. And this is where we can place any HTML that we want to go inside of that div. So if I go back to base here, this is now where we can write essentially all the HTML and kind of inject it into this container. So if I go to block content, I can just do something like h1, and then let's just go homepage, exclamation point, and then /h1. And make sure when you save this, it always does this. It separates the block and the content. You get an error if it's not on the same line. So when I do this, I just hit Control-Shift-P and I hit save without formatting. So save without formatting, you can just type that in because my auto formatter like messes everything up. You may not have the auto formatter. You may not have to do that, but I have one. So I have to go Control-Shift-P, save without formatting. Okay. Apologize that we've just gone through a lot there very quickly, but we created the base page, we created the home page. A lot of the HTML we need to write is done. I'm going to go to views now and start rendering this page. So from views, we already have render. So I'm now going to return render. I'm going to render the request, and then I'm going to render main/home.html. Okay, that's all we need for right now for the home page. And if we go to URLs, we can see we're already referencing that home function. So now everything should be good if I rerun the server. So let's try Python manage.py run server. And we should get a nav bar with some different links, assuming that we've done everything correctly, although it's possible we've made a mistake. So let's refresh now. And there we go. We get a home page, we get home and post, and these are on separate lines, which is a bit messed up. I don't want them to be on separate lines. I want them to be beside each other. So let me have a look at what I messed up there, and I'll be right back. All right, so I found the error here. I accidentally typed expanded instead of expand. So just change this to navbar expand -lg, save. And then if we go back here and we refresh, we should see if this is large enough that they're going to be beside each other. Now, when the page shrinks, yeah, they do go on the same line, but that's fine. So we're all good for now. Okay, so now that we have done that, what we want to do is start setting up authentication, right? So we've created a home page, we have our views. Now we want to have the ability to create users, log in as users, and then do the different user management, create posts, all that type of stuff. So let's go now to views, and let's start creating what we need for authentication. So actually, I lied. I forgot that for authentication, we first need to set up our database. So we could do all of this locally and not host a database remotely, but I want to show you how we can host one using Heroku completely for free. You don't have to pay for this. And then that's going to allow us from Retool to actually connect to the database and use and modify the database without using the Django application. So you'll see what I mean, but let's go to our browser and let's go to Heroku. And let's start creating the database. So go to Heroku. You're going to need to create an account if you don't already have one. Again, it's completely free. You don't have to pay for anything. And then you should be able to get to this dashboard. So if for some reason you can't get there, then just type in https://dashboard.heroku.com. And then what you're going to do is type on new here and create a new application. Now, this app is just going to host the database for us, and it won't host it forever. Like I believe 6 hours of every day, the database does go down, but this is just for testing purposes and to show you how to connect to a remote database. So let's call this something like tutorial. Tutorial is not a variable. Okay, Django tutorial is fine. Okay, actually, let's spell Django correct though. Django tutorial, how about 1, 2, 3? Django 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, great. Let's go with that. Now for the region, you guys can select. I'm going to go United States. Okay. And then we need to add an application to this. So to do that, we're going to go to resources. We're going to go to add-ons, and we're going to click on find more add-ons. Now it's going to bring us to a page that looks like this. We are going to search for Postgres, which is the database that we're going to use. Hit enter, and we should see Heroku Postgres. So that's what we want. We're going to install this. And now what we need to do is select our plan. In this case, it's going to be Hobby Dev free. You could pay for this if you want, but we're just going to use the free plan. Search for an app to provision. So we need to select the one that we just created, Django tutorial 1, 2, 3, 4, and then just submit the order form. And what this will do is add this resource to our application. Okay, so let's hit submit. Give this a second. And there we go. Okay, so it has been installed. And now what I can do is click on Heroku Postgres like this. It's going to bring me to kind of the database view, I guess. And not found. Okay, there we are. Everything is good. So we have a database. We have a maximum size, I think, of like 100 megabytes or 1 gigabyte or something like that. Again, for testing purposes, this will be more than enough. Now, what we want to do here is go to settings. And we want to click on database credentials. Now, obviously, you don't want to share this with anyone else, but we're going to use these database credentials to connect to our database from Django without having to do any major modifications inside of Django. So let me put this on the right side of my screen. Let's get this not in full screen mode and put this on the left. Now, what we want to do is make it so that all of our data is not stored in this, local database on our computer, but again, it's stored in Heroku, and then we can access it from other places as well. So we're going to go to settings.py. And let me just make this a little bit easier to read. Let's move that down. And we need to add something. Let me just scroll through here and try to find this. Okay, so where it says databases, this is what we want to modify so that rather than connecting to our local SQLite database using our base directory, we're going to connect to the database that is hosted on Heroku. So let's change this engine here, first of all, to be django.db.backends. And then this is going to be Postgres, like that, and then QL, okay? Because that's the type of database that we have. Then for the name of the database, that's going to be the name that we have here from the credentials. So let's copy that in the string. Okay, then we need to pass our username, password, host, and port. So we're going to type user in all capitals, and this is going to be the user that we have here. So let's copy our user, put that in the string. Okay, next we need to have our password. So let's go password like that. And the password is going to be the password that we have here. Okay, so let's paste that in. Continuing, we need to have the port and the host. So the host is going to be whatever host it says here. So we're going to copy that. Okay. And then lastly, we want to have the port. Now this port should be the same for everyone, but it's going to be 5432. And that needs to go in a string as well. Okay, so now that we've done that, believe it or not, that's pretty much all we need to have this connect to the Postgres database that we have hosted remotely. We don't actually really need to change anything else. There may be one thing we need to install, but we'll test that out in a second. So what we can do now to make sure this is working is we can go to our command line, and we're going to use manage.py just to update the database here on Postgres, and then we can check here and see if it worked. So we're going to type the following command. It's going to be python manage.py, and then we're going to type migrate. And what this will do is apply all of the changes in our database to now our new database, which is hosted on Postgres. So python manage.py migrate. Let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger so you guys can read this. Okay, that's better. Python manage.py migrate. This will take a second. And then assuming this command runs fine for you, that means that everything is all good and you have connected to the correct remote database. Now, if that didn't work for you, you can try installing the following library, because I had to do this previously. Pip install, and then this is COPG2 binary. For some reason, I had to install this previously when I was messing around with this. So if that doesn't work, try installing this and hopefully that should fix it for you. If that doesn't work, I'm not exactly sure what the problem is, but this should be good. Okay, so now that we have that, let me just refresh the page over here. And we should see that some data has been added to this database. And notice we've gone from 0 rows to 48 rows, and we have a maximum of 10,000 that we can use. And our database size is 8.6 megabytes. So that's good. That means all of the tables that we need have been created successfully. And now our database is hosted remotely on Postgres. So now that we've done that, we're going to start setting up a Retool application that allows us to view this database and view all of the different tables. And then, of course, we'll go through all of the authentication as I was talking about before. So we're going to go to the Retool website here, so retool.com. Make a new account. Again, this is completely free. You don't have to pay for it or sign in if you already have one. I'm going to sign into my account. And notice I have a bunch of apps here. So I'm going to create a new application. I'm just going to make a blank app, but you could make this from one of the default ones. And we'll go Django tutorial like that as my application name. Okay, so I'm brought here now to Retool. So let me just give you a quick demo of how this works and how we connect to a database and all that kind of stuff, so you understand kind of the power of this application. So what we can do here is drag and drop different components directly into the app. Right now, it's just showing me some sample data, but I can, modify this. I can make it larger, I can make it smaller, and I can view all of the stuff related to it on the right-hand side of my screen. So there's stuff like event handlers, pagination. I can select the different columns. I can select the data that I want to use. And what Retool allows you to do is connect to a bunch of different data sources. So if I go down here, you can see that I have some sources I've already connected to, like a Django database, GitHub history, a managed database that I have. But we can also add our own resources here and view multiple resources in the same place. So that's what makes this really powerful, is that I can connect to a ton of different data sources and then aggregate those data sources together and view them all in one place. So let's start by making a new resource here in Retool because we need to connect to our database and view information about our different users and tables and all that kind of stuff. So just in case you don't see this, you can toggle the bottom panel using these buttons, or the left panel and the right panel as well. But click here where it says resource. You should have a default query. If for some reason you don't have that, you can make a new query and go to where the resource is and just hit create new resource. And we're going to select Postgres because that's the resource we want. Of course, there's a ton of different ones that you could connect to. So let's go here. And now we need to copy that information from the credentials page again into here. So I won't bore you with doing that. Let me grab all that data, then I'll be right back. All right, so I've added all of that data. Again, you can find that from the credentials tab on Heroku. Now, just make sure you check connect using SSL. You don't have to modify this, but you need SSL. Otherwise, this isn't going to work. And actually, let me have a look at this right here. We are not going to check that. We don't need the self-signed certificate. That's fine. For now, though, for the name of this, we can call this whatever we want. I'll just call this Django tutorial, okay, as our resource. All right, so let me create this resource here. And now what we should be able to do is actually send queries, just regular SQL queries to this and view that data. So what I'm going to do here is just write a query that allows me to view all of the default tables that we have in our database, just so you get a sense of how this works. And then we'll come back to this tool later on. So for now, I'm going to type select star from, and then I want to select this from the PG underscore, and then this is catalog. I don't know if I spelled that correctly. I think that's fine. And then .pg underscore tables, and this will give you all of the tables that are in the database. So let's just run this, save and run. And when I do that, I should get a preview. Password authentication failed. Okay, so let me just edit this resource because I guess the password I put in is wrong. All right, so I just updated the password. Looks like I just made a mistake there when I was typing it in. Let's rerun this though. And now you'll see that we actually get some data. So let me make this a bit larger so that we can view this. You can ignore this warning. We don't need that. We don't need to worry about that for right now. And notice we can view all of the different tables that are by default going to be added into our Postgres database. So we have Django migrations, Django content type, auth permission, auth group permissions, PG type, auth user. These are just by default in Django in the database. And then of course, if we create our own models, those will be added here as well. Anyways, that is what I wanted to show you for now. We also can make it so that this table shows us all of that if we want. So to do that, I would just click on this table here. It's called table 1. I can say, tables, because we're going to view all the tables. And for the data, I can remove this. And I can actually instead reference the value of this query. Now, the way I reference the value of the query is I put this inside of 2 sets of curly braces, and I type in the name, which is going to be get tables.data. So now it's accessing this query that we wrote here, and I can just view all of the data that I'm viewing down here inside of this table. So just a demo there of how easy it is to actually use Retool to visualize some data. Okay, anyways, now that we have that, let's leave that page open. We don't need to look at it right now. Let's set up the authentication, and then we can come back here and we can view all of the users and stuff that's being created in our database. Okay, so let's go back to VS Code. We can get out of settings for now, and we can now go to, actually, where do we want to do this? So sorry for the bit of confusion here. I'm just trying to think what order I want to do this in because there's many different ways to go about doing this. Let's actually get it out of views. My apologies. Let's go to urls.py here for our website. So what I need to add here is a path. This is just going to be an empty path again, and then this is going to be include, and we're going to include Django dot and then contrib.auth.urls. Now, these are a bunch of pre-built URLs that will actually automatically do things like log in, log out, password reset. There's a bunch inside of here, and all you need to do to allow these to work is to write the forms for them, or to write, the HTML templates for them. So that's why I said we had to make this registration folder inside of templates, because now what I can do is make a template called login.html. I don't have to manually render this template. What will happen is that the login route that's provided by Django will automatically render this login page whenever I go to the /login URL. Hopefully this makes a tiny bit of sense, but these are kind of pre-written URLs or routes, and they will render specific templates that have specific names. Now, those templates need to be inside of the registration folder, and they need to have whatever the corresponding name is of the URL. So login is one of them, but you can also override like the forbidden template. You can override password reset. You can override a bunch of them. I just want to override the login one though, and I'll show you again how this works. So let's go into login, and what we're going to do is type extends, and we're going to extend from the main slash, and let's just make these single quotes to be consistent. And then this is going to be base.html. Okay, we want to extend that template. We then want to override our two blocks. So we're going to say %% block title. Let's end our block. %% end block. Okay, and let me just copy this, and we'll do the same with content. Okay, block content like that. For the title, we'll say login. And then for the content, we're going to have a few more things. Now, above the content, I also need to write another tag here, and this is going to say load, and we're going to load the crispy underscore form underscore tags like that. And actually, it's going to be crispy forms tags. Now, this is going to allow us to get access to the following two tags. The tags that we need are the %% CRSF and then underscore token. Let me just make sure I spelled that right. CRSF, nope, CS and then RF token, okay. And then we need one more, and this is going to be form, and then we're going to pipe, and we're going to put crispy. Okay, let me just code out a bit of HTML here, and then I'll explain why we need this. So we're going to have a form, and then we're going to end the form. Okay, so what we're doing here for the login page is we want to display a form that's provided to us by Django. That's why we wanted to have crispy forms. Now, whenever we have a form that has an action like post, because the method of this form is going to be a post form, that means that we need to add this CSRF token inside. Now, this token is kind of a security feature. I won't explain exactly how it works. I'm not an expert on it, but essentially, whenever you have some type of form that has an action and it's going to be hitting an endpoint on your server, you need this CSRF underscore token. So if you get some things saying CSRF token missing, then add this inside of your form. Now, you don't need to load the crispy form tags to be able to do this. At least I'm pretty sure you don't, but this part you do need the crispy forms tag loaded for. So let me just take a quick pause here and explain what's going on. So we have our form. It has a method of post, but if I had another method like delete, put whatever, it'd be the same thing. Whenever we have that, we need to place this CSRF token inside of the form. Now, this is kind of a security feature for Django. I won't explain it much more than that, but if you ever get an error saying you're missing your CSRF token, it's because you need to embed it inside of every form on the page that's going to be actually interacting with the server or sending a request to it. And of course, this post is going to do that. This form is going to do that because it's a post method. Then we have form crispy. Now, what this is doing is saying there's going to be a variable here passed to this template called form. Now, form is going to contain like the email address, the password, anything else that you would need to sign in this case. The form is going to have all of that. And we put this little pipe here, which I believe in Django actually stands for filter. And then we put crispy. Now, what that means is we are going to use crispy forms to display this form. That's essentially what's going on. Now, in case you're unfamiliar with this, whenever you want to embed a variable inside of your template, you do it with two curly braces like this. So that's why we're writing two curly braces, writing form, which is a variable, and then we're kind of using this crispy, I'm going to call it a filter, could be really, it's probably called something else, but we're going to use this crispy filter to actually display the form. Okay, that's pretty much all we need. I will just add a few other kind of nice touches here. So I'm going to add an A tag. This is going to have an href equal to, and this will be /sign up. And I'm going to say, don't have an account ? And we'll say creates one. And actually, I realized that I've done this kind of wrong. This needs to be a P tag. And then inside of here, we're going to have an A tag. And we're going to say create one here so that you can create a new account by clicking on that button. Okay, that's good. And then lastly, we just need a button here. And the button is going to submit the form for us and allow us to log in. So I'm going to say button type is equal to submit. For the class, we're going to say btn success. This just makes it a green button. And then we'll say login. And when you hit that button, it will submit the form. So I'm going to save this. Notice it kind of messes everything up, right? So I've got to now change this manually to make sure these are on the same line. Let's save without formatting. And now the login template has been created. Okay, so pause the video if you need to complete that. But going back here, urls.py, since we've added these URLs, now you'll see when I go to the login page, it will display this template automatically. So let's run our server. I'm not sure if it's running already. It doesn't look like it is. Okay, so Python manage.py. Let's cd into website first. Cd into website. Python manage.py. Run server. Okay. And the file name directory or label is incorrect. Okay. Let me have a look here and see what's wrong. Okay, so I'm just searching around for that problem. Kind of a weird error. First of all, go to your settings.py, and under your installed applications, just drag in these two lines here, or I guess type them in, crispy allowed template packs and crispy template pack. This just makes it so we're going to use Bootstrap 5 as the default templates. Okay, so drag those in. You might not need to add those, but for me at least, I needed to add those. And then what I'm going to do is rerun my server. So Python manage.py, run server, and everything should be good. Now, when you guys ran your server, it may have worked for you. I had some other problem that I've fixed. It's not really relevant to you. It was just in my environment. I was running a virtual environment that didn't have Bootstrap 5 crispy template pack installed or whatever, so I had to deactivate that. Anyways, though, now let's see what happens if we go back here, we refresh, and we go to /login. Now, when I go there, notice it brings me to a login page. So we have our login, right? We have this that we've added, don't have an account, create one here. And then we have the login button, and the form is automatically generated for us. Now you can customize this form if you want, but I'm not going to do that in this video. This is just kind of the default login form that Django will provide to you. All right, so now that we have all of that, this will actually handle signing in a user for us automatically, so we don't need to do that manually. And once you have users created, you can go to login, sign in with them, and again, that will be handled for you. Now, a few other things we want to add here. So go to our settings.py, go to the very bottom. So just put inside of here two variables. First, login redirect URL. So this is where you want to go after you log in. So I want to go to the /home page after I log in. And then we're going to change this to be the log out redirect URL. And where do you want to go when you log out? Well, I want to go to /login. Okay, so you can change dynamically where you're going to be placed when you log in and log out. And then we just want to add a root for /home now. So let's go to urls.py and let's just add another path and let's just make this home. Okay, so now if you go to home, it will bring you to the same page as when you go to the empty root. Okay, let's save. What's it saying? Login is not defined. We go to settings.py. I think we're fine. Let's rerun this. Everything should be good. Okay, so now let's just have a look at something. If I go here, and I go /logout, notice it redirects me to the login page. So I wasn't logged in, so obviously it didn't need to do anything, but when you go to log out, it would log you out and then bring you back to the login page. Okay, so now that we have done all of that, we need to be able to create user accounts. So to create user accounts, we actually need to set up the root for that ourselves. So we're gonna make a new template here inside of registration, and this is gonna be called sign_up.html. And we'll copy everything that we have from login and just place that into the sign up. We'll just change this slightly. So for sign up, we just want to make it so that rather than having login, we have register. Okay. And then rather than don't have an account, we're going to say have an account ? And then we'll say login here. And then we'll change this to /login. Okay. For the page, we'll do sign up. And I mean, I guess you can make this sign up as well. I'm just going to make it register. And that's actually all we need for the sign up page. Okay, so let's save that. All right, so we now have sign up and we have login. We now need to go to our views and we need to make a view here for sign up. We actually have to write this ourselves. So I'm going to say define sign up. We're going to take in a request. And since when we go to this page, let's have a look here, we have a form that has a method of post. So that means when we go to the page, what we want to happen is if we're having a GET request, we want to render the page, so show the HTML. But if we have a POST request, we want to read the data from the form and create a new account. So we have to handle that here. So I'm going to say if the request dot, and then this is going to be method, is equal to POST, then we're going to say form is equal to, and this is going to be register form. We're going to write this form in 1 second, but we're going to pass to this the request.postData. Okay, now otherwise, we're going to say form is equal to register form like that. And we're going to say return, render, request. We're going to render registration like that, slash, and then this is going to be signup.html. And we're going to pass to this a form, which is equal to our form variable. Now, again, I know a lot of this seems confusing if you haven't seen this before. What we're going to do is create a register form. Now, when you create these forms, what that allows you to do is pass post data to them, and then they can automatically validate the data for you, and you can simply render the form using this kind of, filter. Again, it's probably not a filter, but that's what I'm calling it, inside of a template. So now let's create the form, and then this will make more sense. So inside of main, we're going to make a new file here. It's going to be called forms.py, and we're going to make the registration form. So the way that we do this is we say from Django import, and then we're going to import forms like that. And then we're going to actually extend the user creation form, which is the default form from Django. So I'm going to say from Django.contrib. And then this is going to be auth, and this is not form. This is from Django.contrib.auth.forms. I want to import the user creation field. So form like that. And then I'm going to say from Django and then this is going to be actually contrib, and then .auth.models. I also want to import the user model. Okay, so I'm going to say class registration form. This is going to be user creation form like that. I'm going to say email is equal to forms.email field. I'm going to say required equals true. I'm going to say class meta. I'm going to say the model is equal to user, and then the fields is equal to, and I'm going to list all of the fields that I want to be required when we sign in. So I'm going to say username, email, and sorry, not sign in. This is creating an account, password 1, and password 2. Okay, I know I just went through a lot and didn't really explain it, but I'm importing forms, importing the user creation form, which is the default form provided from Django for creating a new user. I'm then importing the user, and user is, well, where we're going to store different users. So this is already built into Django. We don't have to make a user model. It has one for us. And all I'm doing here is adding a form to the default user creation form called email, because I want this form to show kind of, custom stuff. I want it to show the username, the email, password 1, and password 2. And by default, there's not an email, so I have to add that in here by making this custom form. So I'm saying, okay, we're having a registration form, overriding or extending the user creation form, inheriting from it. We then have our email field, which we're adding. Then what class meta is doing inside of here is saying, okay, well, what are we creating with this form? We're creating a user, and the fields that we want to have from the user model are username, email, password 1, and password 2. Hopefully this makes a little bit of sense. I can't really explain it much more than that. Feel free to read the Django documentation for a more in-depth explanation. Again, just extending this form, adding the email field, and now we can have our custom signup page. And if you wanted to require more information here, you can add different fields. So you could add, I don't know, maybe a birth date or something, right? And then you would just add that into fields here, and then you'd have to fill in all of that when you're creating a user, and it will automatically be added to the user model. Okay, so let's go to signup.html, views.py, and now we are going to import this registration form. So we're going to say from, and this will be dot, and then forms, import, and we're going to import the register, and I called it registration. Let's just call this register, and we can change it here to be register form. Okay, and now we're going to use this form. So in views, what we're saying is, okay, if we have a post request, then we're going to fill the register form with whatever the data was that's in the form that we displayed. If it's not a post request, so if it's a get request, then we're going to create a form that's empty, that doesn't have any data, and we're going to render that as the form. Hopefully you guys are following. Let's go back here though. Let's now go to, actually, I forgot, we need to go to URLs, and we need to create the signup route. So now in URLs, let's paste in another path. Let's call this sign up. And now instead of views.home, this is going to be views.signup. And the name will be signup. Okay. I think that is good. Now we can go back to our browser, and we should be able to just go to sign up. So sign up like that. And there you go. Now it brings us to this page. So we have username, we have an email, we have a password, and then we have our password confirmation. And again, notice this entire form is built for us. We did not have to make this ourselves. Quite nice. Then if we go login, brings us to the login page, go sign up, brings us to the sign up page. All right, so now that the form is displaying nicely, what we want to do is actually handle what happens when we hit this button. So it will validate the form for us. But the thing is, we want to send a post request, and then in the post request, we need to create a new user, because right now, all we're doing is we're just getting the form, right? We're not actually creating a new user, so we need to make a user. So to make a user, we're going to say the following. We're going to say if form.is, and then this is going to be valid. So there's actually a method on the form that will validate this form is indeed correct. Then what I want to do is say user is equal to form.save, okay? Then what I can do is log in the user. Now, to log in the user, we need to import this. So we're going to say from, and then this is going to be django.contrib.auth import, and we're going to import login. And while we're out at it, we can import log out and then authenticate. And I'll just show you how we use these later on. Okay, so we have a login function, log out function, and authenticate. And now if I go here, after I create my user, what I can do is the following. I can log in my user. So I can say login. I can pass my request, and I can pass my user. So that's as easy as it is to create a new user. Again, we overrode the form, right, for the user creation form. Inside of here, when we send a post request, so from the form on the HTML, we are going to populate the form using whatever the data was. We're going to say if form is valid, then we will save the user, and we will log in. Okay, so now that we have that, let me just import redirect, and I actually want to redirect the user here, so I'm going to return a redirect, okay, and I don't want URL 4, I just want to have a redirect to, and let's go /home. So now that'll just redirect us to the /home page, and I think that should be good for the sign up view. So let's now go back here and let's try to sign up. So let's refresh the page. Okay, let's go username, Tim. Let's go email, tim@gmail.com. Let's type in a password. Let's intentionally mistype the password. And then notice it tells me, hey, the two password fields don't match. So it automatically does that for us. I don't have to handle that. Okay, let's now type it correctly. And let's hit register. And when I do that, it brings me to the home page because I've now signed in. Now I'll show you how we check who's signed in. But now what we can do is go to Retool, and we can try to have a look at all of our different users and see if that was actually created correctly. So notice here that we look at the different tables. Let's actually search them by table name. We have auth group, auth permissions, auth permission, auth user. Now, auth user is what actually contains our different users. So what I can do now is just make a request or make a query to the auth user table and view all of the users in that table. So if I make a new query here, resource query, let's call this, let's say get_users, then I can say select asterisk from, and then auth_user. And let's save and run that. And notice that I have an ID 1, I have my password hash, I have my login is super user, I have the username Tim, and I have the email and all of the other data, like first name, last name. We didn't populate that, but if we wanted to add that to the form, we could have. And now if I want to view that in a table here, let's just drag a table in, okay? And it actually automatically threw in my getUsers.data for me. So now I can view my users really easily. There you go. We now see that user has been created. So now let's actually log this user out. So let's go log out. So now that I've logged out, let's just try to log in. So let's go Tim and log in. And notice that works fine. It brings me to the home page. Now let's see what happens if I try to log in as Tim12. Notice it says, please enter a correct username and password. It automatically populates a message on the screen. So at this point, I have actually showed you how to log in users, sign up new users, and the basic authentication system of Django. You can see all this stuff is built in. Like, we don't have to write a lot of this, and you can go in and customize it. But for most websites, this is going to be pretty much all that you need. So I just want to quickly recap you because that was kind of an important section, and I know there's a lot of stuff that we went through here. So we started by in urls.py adding this auth URLs, right? Now, when we add that, it gives us a bunch of pre-built URLs that we can use. Then what we did is we created a login and sign up form. Now, in the login and sign up form, we're using the Crispy Forms kind of module to allow us to just display a form that's passed to this template. So when we went to views, for example, and we had sign up, we passed this variable form, and we are able to display that entire form using the Crispy Form tags in our template. Then for login, for example, the root for this is already created. So when we go to login, it just displays this form, and then all of the authentication is handled. So it will automatically authenticate us, automatically log us in. We don't have to handle that. Again, you can hook into that and customize the behavior. All you have to do is create a form, add your CSRF token, do something like this, and then you can customize it how you like and add a button here to submit the form. Okay, continuing, if we go back to views.py, we need to manually handle the sign up form just because we want to display our own form, right? So we created a register form. So if we go to forms, we have the register form overriding the user creation form. We've added email because that's not by default in the registration form. And we could have also added first name and last name. So if I want to show that to you, I could do something like first name is equal to forms dot, and then we can just make this a char field and say required equals true. And then for another form that we want to show, or another field that we want to show, we just put first name. And now if I go back here and I go to this, notice the first name field's automatically added, right? So of course I could add the last name field as well. I don't really need to do that. It's fine. And I don't actually want the first name field, so let's remove it. But I just wanted to show you that you can add your own custom fields on there for the user model, and you can kind of customize it as you please. And yeah, that's pretty much it. From views, we also had login, and we've saved the form, we validated the form, but that's how you handle authentication. Now the logout route is already written, so when you go to /logout, it logs you out. Now, though, what I want to show you is how we view the current user that's signed in, how we get their username, how we display that, for example, on the nav bar. So let's do that. To do that, we're going to go to our base template. So let's go to base. And in this second part of the nav bar here where it just says login, I'm now going to write a little bit of logic that will show a different thing if the user is already logged in. So it will show logout if they're not logged in, and it will show, the username as well as logout if they already are signed in. So for now, I'm going to say %%. I'm going to write an if statement, which you can do here inside of Jenga. I'm going to say if user.is authenticated, then I don't want to show login, right? So we're going to put %% else here, and then we're going to have %% end block. Okay. We're going to copy this li tag. We're going to put it here, except we're going to say log out, and we're going to have /logout as the link. So now we have logout, but I also want to display the name of the user. So to do that, I'm going to say span, and this is going to say class is equal to, and I'm just going to put this as navbar text. I'm going to end our span tag here, and I'm going to say logged in as, and I'm going to say user dot, and then username like that. Okay, and then I'm just going to put a pipe here just so it separates this li tag because these are going to be on the same line. Okay, so now let me save this and let's quickly talk about what we did. So user is a variable that's accessible to a template no matter what. So we don't have to manually pass this to the template. It can always access this user variable. So I can check if the user is authenticated. Now, if the user is not authenticated, of course, this is false. And that means that we will show this, right? We'll just show login. Now, if the user is authenticated, we're going to show logged in as, and then whatever their username is. So you can just access the username, and then we'll show logout, and it'll bring it to the logout URL. So pretty straightforward, but inside a template, you can use something like is authenticated. You can also use stuff like is super user, has permission. I'll show you that in a minute. For now, though, let's go back here and let's refresh. And we got an error here. It said end block expected end if. Sorry. So when I have end block here, I just need to change this to end if. That's how you end an if statement. Let me save. Let's go back and refresh. And notice it says I'm logged in as Tim. If I log out, now it shows login, brings me to the login page. Try to sign in as this guy. Incorrect. So let's change this to Tim, log in, and then it says logged in as Tim, and then I have the logout button. Okay, so our authentication is pretty much handled. Now we want to start dealing with user permissions and allowing specific users to create posts. So actually we'll do creating posts first, and then we'll deal with the different permissions. So I was just editing this video and watching it back and realized that I missed something in here, so I want to jump in and add it. So here is the documentation for using the Django authentication model, method, whatever. There's a lot of stuff in here. I'll link this in the description. But it's very thorough and it goes through how you authenticate users, how you do permissions. I'm going to show you a bunch of this stuff, but obviously I can't cover the entire documentation. So please reference this if there's something in this tutorial that you're missing, or I guess something I didn't cover that you need. Anyways, with that said, if I keep scrolling down here, it says using the views. Okay, so Django provides several views that you can use for login, logout, and password management. Now, password management is not what I talked about. And that's what I wanted to quickly mention here. So when you include the URLs, which we did, you get all of these URLs. Login, logout, password change, password reset, reset, done. And I want to show you that if we go here, we have some views that are already built. For example, password reset. Was it password reset? It was password underscore reset. So if I go to password underscore reset, you see it brings us to this page here where I'm actually able to reset my password. Now there's also password change like this. So obviously these don't look very good, so you can override these views if you want to. So just like we overrode the login view by making that login.html template, you can make templates that have these names, and then it will render those templates and display the form and all of that. So I just wanted to show that to you. You can continue to read this to see exactly how that works, but stuff like password reset and password changing is handled by Django. And again, the way you have to do this if you want to override the view is you have to create a template in the registration folder that has the same name as this. So password underscore change dot HTML, and then show the form like we did for the login page. Okay, that's all I wanted to add in. Hopefully that is helpful to you. Again, this will be linked in the description. Please check it out. There's a lot of useful stuff in there. All right, so I've been a little bit all over the place here because there is a lot of stuff you have to do in multiple different files. So hopefully you guys are following along okay. Again, I will remind you all of this code will be available from the description. So if you can't get everything down at once, which is understandable, then please feel free to reference the code there, copy and paste what you need. Of course, I'm going to write everything from scratch though, because I want you to see exactly how everything is done. What we want to do now, we've completed the base page, is we want to restrict page access and we want to be able to create posts. So we can do this in really any order that we'd like, but ideally we shouldn't be able to access the home page unless we're signed in. And right now we can just go there, right? If I sign out, let's go back here, let's log out, and let's just go to / it brings me here, no problem. So ideally I want it to not let me go there if I'm not signed in. So how are we going to do that? Well, to do that, I can actually use a decorator on top of this function that requires that I'm logged in. So we're going to say from Django.contrib, if we could spell that right, .auth.decorators import login required. Sometimes I swear my autocomplete can hear me because it gives me almost everything that I'm looking for whenever I'm looking for. Anyways, what we're going to do here is put login required, and we're going to put login underscore URL is equal to, and then /login. Now, we just need to do this so that we're telling the decorator where to redirect us if we're not signed in. So if we are not logged in, it's going to redirect us to this login URL, okay? If you don't have that, it'll redirect you to something like /auth or /accounts/login, which of course is not the URL that we're using. Okay, anyways, we have @login required. So now that I've added that, it's as simple as refreshing here, and you'll see that it brings me to login page, right? So if I try to go to home, it just doesn't let me go there. It just redirects me over here to the login page. Perfect. So now let's log in. Let's go Tim. And notice that I'm able to access the home page, right? And if I go /sign-up, and then I go /home, I'm still signed in, and so I can still view it. Okay, so that's as easy as this to restrict page access for logged in users. Now, of course, if you want only specific users to view specific pages, that's a bit more challenging, but we will look at that later on. Okay, so now that we've done that, we've seen the basics on restricting page access. Let us have a look at how we can create different posts for users and then only let users who created a specific post delete their own post. So let's go to models because we need to make a model here for a post. Now we're going to make a really simple model. And to do this, we're going to start by saying from Django.contrib auth.models import user, because we need a relationship between posts and users so we know which user made which post. So we're going to say class post, and this will be models.model, and we're going to put in everything that we need. So the first thing we need for a post is an author, and this author is going to be a user. So we're going to have a foreign key that goes to our user model, and we're going to have on_delete equal to models.cascade. Now, what this is saying is that if the user that's being referenced here is deleted, this post will be deleted as well. That's all that means. If you didn't have this, then you would have a bunch of posts inside of your database that are linked to authors that were deleted or no longer exist, right? Of course, you don't want that, so we're adding the on delete. Okay, so that's our author. Now we want to have a title. The title is going to be models.char field. We can have the max length equal to something like 200. We then want a description. Again, this will be a models dot, actually we'll go with text field. And I will not limit how large this is, although you could do that if you want. Then we want to have two things. We want to have created at. So I'm going to have a models.datetime field, auto now add true. Yes, we want that because whenever you created this, we want it to automatically add the time. And then we will have an updated at, and I'm just going to have auto now, and that's going to be equal to true. So whenever we update the model, it should update this. Now, we're not actually going to make it so you can update the model, but just a good field typically to add to your models. All right, lastly, we're just going to add a string method here just so we can view this nicely. So we're going to say string, and we're going to return the self.title plus, and then a \n plus, and then the self.description, just so that if we print out a post, we're able to view this nicely. All right, that's it for adding the model. These different fields you can reference from the Django documentation, but this is just characters, this is text, this is the date time. I think you guys understand. The foreign key is probably the most complicated, but this requires that we pass a user object to the post when we make it, and then we're kind of linking each one of our posts to a specific author, and so we can access like the author's username and all that type of stuff when we view a post. Okay, that's all we need for models. Now that we have created that model, what we can do is just quit here, and we're going to run the command python manage.py and then migrate, and this should make a new table now. Your model and mains have changed, they're not yet reflected migration. Okay, sorry, so first we need to type make migrations. So first what we need to do here, is make migrations, and then once we make the migrations, we can migrate. So we'll actually apply all of these migrations to the remote database. So I'm going to say python manage.py make migrations. The migration is it created the model post, okay? And then python manage.py migrate, and then that should be good, and it actually applies it to our database. Nice. Okay, so now that we've done that, let's rerun the server. And let's now set up a way to actually make a new post. So we have our post model. And to make a new post, similarly to before, we need some form that's going to allow us to do that. So I'm going to go to forms, and I'm going to type class, and this is going to be the post form. Now, for this form, we're going to write it a little bit differently than we did the other one. It's going to be forms dot, and then this is going to be model form. And all we're going to put in here is class meta, and we're going to say model is equal to post. And then fields, these are the fields that we want the user to have to fill in, are just going to be the title and the description. Okay, and then we need to import the post model. So we're going to say from.models import post. Now, again, what this is going to allow us to do is simply create an instance of this form, pass this to a template, and then the template will display the form for us that has the title and the description. So we'll be able to grab the title and description data, and then we can add other things like the author, which is required to create a post before we actually manually make the post. So now let's go to views.py, and let's write a view here. We're going to say define create _ post. We'll take in request. And then again, we're going to have a form here on this create post HTML. So we could have the potential method of post being sent to this route. So we have post or we have get, right? So we're going to say if, and this will be request.method is equal to post, then we're going to say form is equal to, and this is going to be a post form, and we're going to pass the request.post data. So we need to import the post form as well. So let's import that from up here. Then similarly, we want to check if the form is valid. So we're going to say if the form is valid, then what we're going to do is say the post is equal to form.save, but we're going to say commit is equal to false. Now, the reason I'm doing this is because when you save a form, as you can see right here, it actually will create this entry in the database automatically if the commit is not passed to this. So by default, commit is equal to true, which means when you save the form, whatever the model was that the form's connected to, so user or post, it's going to create that entry in the database. So I don't want to create that yet because this, let's go back here. This form is incomplete, right? I have my description, I have my title, but I need to add my user to this form as well before I can do that. So I have to say post.author is equal to, and then this is going to be request.user, and this is how you can access the user that's currently signed in, request.user. Okay, then we're going to say post.save, and when we save the post now, it will actually create that in the database, which is what we want. All right, then we can do a return, redirect, and we will simply redirect to /home once we make the post. Now, otherwise, I guess we don't really need an else because we have, actually, yes, we do need an else. We're going to have an else. We're going to say form is equal to, and this is going to be post form, just an empty post form. And then we're going to return the render of the request. This will be main.createPost. We'll make that HTML in a second. And then for the form, we'll simply pass our form, right? So pretty much the exact same thing as sign up. Now, for making a post, we first want to be logged in, right? So I'm going to say login required, and then login underscore URL is equal to why it's giving me logout. This should be login. Okay. So now that we've done that, let's just make the create post.html form. Now, luckily for us, we can really just copy the login form or the sign up form, whatever one we want. Go new file. Let's go create underscore post.html. Let's paste that in, and let's remove this. And rather than login now, we're just going to say post, and then the name will be create a post. Okay, nice. So let's save that. And again, that's all we need here because the form that we're passing will automatically handle, creation, deletion, all of that type of stuff. Okay. Function object has no attribute user, request.user. Let me see why we're getting that error. Okay, so I just reran the server and everything was good. That happens sometimes. You just need to manually rerun. So I reran. Looks like we're good now. Let's just give a refresh here and let's go log out. Now let's try to post. It says create post not found. Okay, that's a good hint that we need to add the create post URL. Forgot to do that. So let's add that. Let's go here. Let's just make a new path. And this will be create post. Okay. And this will be views.createPost. And then the name will be createPost. Okay. Now that we have that, let's go back. Let's refresh. And notice that it is not allowing me to post because I'm not signed in, right? So now let's sign in. And when I sign in, it should bring me to the post page. Great. And I have my title and I have my description. And since this is a text field, I can expand this, make it larger. So let's do something like hello world. And then hey everyone. And this should actually work. So let's go post and brings us to the home page. Now we're not viewing any of the posts right now. What we can do is go to Retool here and we can now view some of the posts if we'd like to do that. So let's write a query that lets us view the posts. So let me just make that a bit smaller. Let's write a new query. Let's call this one. Go here, get underscore posts. Okay. And I'm going to say select asterisk from, and actually, let me just refresh this here. And let's see now if we have a post table. And we do, it's main post, main underscore post is what it's called. So let's access the main post. So let's go from main underscore post like that. Let's save and run. And we should see that we have post ID 1, title hello world, description, create at, update at, and then author ID is 1. Now author ID is the ID of the user, right, that created this post. And if we go and look at our users, we can see this has ID 1. So we created this with Tim, right? Now we could do a join operation if we want to have information about the author directly on the post, but we'll deal with that later. I just want to show you that we do indeed have a post. And just for easy viewing here, let's create another table. And there we go. We can now view the post data. Okay. So now that we have ability to create a post, we want to view the different posts. So let's view them on the home page. And then we'll make it so you can delete a post, but only if you are the owner of that post or if you were the one who created that post. All right, so let's go to the home page because that's where we want to view the posts. And for home here, right now we're just rendering a template, but let's grab all of the posts and just display all of the posts. So to do that, I'm going to say from dot models import post, and then I can do something like posts is equal to post.objects.all, and that'll just give me all of the posts that I have. So now I can pass that as a variable. So I can say posts is equal to the post, and that will allow me now to go inside of my home HTML template and start displaying all of the posts. So to do that, we're gonna have to write a fair amount of HTML just because I want this to look decently. I want this to look decently. I want this to look decent. So I'm going to write a div. I'm going to say class is equal to, we're going to write a card, and this is going to be margin top 2, and let's end the div. And I want all of these cards to represent a single post. So I'm going to loop through all of the posts. The way I can do that is using a for loop directly inside of here. So I can say for, and then post in posts like that. Let's just end the for loop before we forget. So this is going to be end for. Okay, so we now have a card for every single post. Inside of the card, I want to have the following. I want to have a header. So I'm going to have my card header, and this is going to contain the name of the user who made this post. So not post.title, but post.author. And this is going to be at, and we can actually say post.author. And I think I can just type .username, or .author might do it. Let's do .username for now. That will be inside of the card header, okay? Then we want to have our card body. So I'm going to say div class is equal to card, and then this will be body. And then we also want to have this be a display flex, a flex row, and then we want to justify content between. And what this will do is push content to the left and right-hand side of the card. You'll see why we need this in a second, but it's for adding some buttons and having them being floating on the right-hand side. Anyways, inside of here now, we're going to create 2 divs. And the first div doesn't actually need a class. We can just have it be a div, and we'll have one more. Now, just for simplicity here, this div will say buttons, and these will be the buttons to delete a post and to ban a user. We're just not going to handle those right now. And in the first part, I'm going to display the kind of content of the post. So it'll have an h5 tag. I will have class is equal to, and this can be card title. And inside of this div, we want to display the title of the post. So we can say post dot and then title like that. And sorry, this needs to be /h5. And then we'll just display a p tag that has the description of the post. So we can say post dot description. And then the last thing that we can do is add a footer for the post that displays when it was posted. So we can have a card footer. Let's end that div. Okay, and then inside of the footer, we're going to have, actually, we can just make it like this, text muted. And we can just put the text that we want, which is going to be post dot, and then this is created at like that. Okay, so let me save. I just now need to fix some of this because it always messes it up. Okay, Command-Shift-P, save, and now in home, we should be viewing all of the posts. One thing I can do is I can check if the posts are empty or not as well. So I can do something where right before my end for, I just add a tag called empty. And what this will do is essentially check if there's no posts inside of posts. Now, if there isn't any, what I can do is display a p tag that just says no posts yet, sad face. Okay, let's save. All right, let's now go back to the homepage. Let's refresh. And there we go. We now see our post. And notice I was showing you the buttons are going to be on the right-hand side. That's why I coded it that way. So now we want to write 2 buttons, a button to delete and a button to ban the user. But we only want to show those buttons to people that have the ability to delete a post and to people that have the ability to, well, ban a user. So it is a little bit complicated to do that. But the first one that deals with deleting a post, we can do it in the following way. We can go inside of buttons here, and we can write an if statement. We can say %% like this. Okay, %% if, and we can say if request dot user is equal to the post dot author. then we'll allow them to delete the post. Now, we'll also allow them to delete it if they're a mod or if they have permission to delete the post, but we'll handle that in a second because, again, that's a bit more complicated. So request is something that we should have access to directly inside of the template. If we don't, we can manually pass it, but I believe request we always have access to. So we can say if request.user, or actually, sorry, we can just say user. I figured out that in the template, we have access to user. So we can just say if user is equal to the post.author, then of course they should be able to delete this. And we'll check this on the back end as well, but this will be our front end, display. So we're going to make a form. So let's actually do this first. We'll say form. The method here is going to be equal to delete, okay? And then we're going to have /form like that. And then inside of the form, we're going to have our CRSF token or CSRF token. Keep messing that one up. And then we need a button. And this button will have a type equal to submit. We'll have class BTN, and then we'll have BTN danger, which makes this a red button. And we'll have delete like that. Okay. Let me again fix this because I saved and save the format. All right, so that should be good. So if the user is the post.author, we have a form, we have CRSF token, we have a button that allows us to delete. However, we need some way to know what post it is that we want to delete, because right now this doesn't tell us what post we were clicking on. So what we're going to do is add a value here, and the value is going to be equal to the current post.id. Now, this is going to allow me to access the ID of the post that I hit the delete button for. However, I need a name for this. So I'm going to say name is equal to, and then the name will be, we'll just call this, actually we'll go post ID. Okay, so essentially this button, when I click it, it's going to add post ID with a value of whatever the ID of the post is to the form data that will be submitted as the delete request to this URL. So now if I go back to views.py, inside of home, I can do the following. I can say if request.method is equal to delete, then I can say the post_ID is equal to, and then I think this is going to be request dot, and then I think I can do request.post.get and then post ID. However, I might have to change the type to post, or I don't know if we have access to delete. We can try this for now. So let's just print out the post ID and see if that works. Otherwise, we'll have to make a quick fix. Okay, let's try this out though for now. We've added this in home. We've created the button here that the user can click on. So at minimum, we can see if it's showing up for the user. So let's refresh. And we got an issue here. It says end for expected elif, else, or end if. Did you forgot to add that? Okay, end for. Sorry, I need to end my if statement. So we have the if right here. I forgot to end it. So let's end it right here. %% end if. Okay. And save, and now we should be good. Okay, let's go back. Let's refresh. And another error, empty expected end block. Did you forget this? Okay, let me have a look. All right, another problem. We have the N4 right here when the N4 needs to be at the end. So I had a duplicate N4. That's why I was getting that. So let me get rid of that. Okay, and let's try this one more time. Let's refresh, and there we go. It's showing the delete button. Now let's see what happens if we log out. And I guess we need another account to sign in us. So let's just make one joe@gmail.com. Let's add a password. I'm just going to keep using the same one so don't forget it. Okay, let's register. And now notice it doesn't show the delete button because, well, Joey is not the author of this post. Can Joey make a post? Let's say, hi, I am Joey. Hello, everyone. Post. And there you go. Now we can delete this post. Now let's try it. So let's hit delete. And let's see. So it didn't delete the post. Didn't look like, oh, well, that's because we haven't actually written the code to do that. But if I come here, you can see that I was passing all this stuff, post ID equals 2, but nothing was printed out from views.py. So we're not able to print the post ID. So it looks like this did not necessarily work. So let's change this to be post. And let's see if that works now. So let's go back here and let's hit the button. Okay, so same thing here. It was not printing out the post ID. All right, so I've kind of figured out the problem here is that we're sending a GET request for some reason when I hit the button. So maybe the method needs to be lowercase. So let's see if I can change the method to that. And of course, I need to make this change again. Okay, let's see if now it's going to send a delete. So let's refresh. Let's hit that. And okay, it's still sending a GET request. So I guess that's not a action that's allowed from the form. So let's just change the method here to be post. And let's save. And let's come back here. And let's refresh. And let's try this now. And now it's actually sending a post. Okay, so I guess we just have to have a post here. My apologies there, guys. For some reason, I thought we could do delete. So now when I do request.post.get, this should work. However, we need to change the request.method to be checking if it's post. So now let's come back here. Let's refresh again. Okay, continue. And let's just do this. Get rid of all this stuff. Okay. Here, home, delete. And it prints out the ID of 2. Okay, that's what we're looking for. All is working. Apologies about all of the confusion there. All right, so now that we have the post ID, what we need to do is confirm that this user owns this post and that this post exists before we actually delete it, right? So to do that, we need to first get the post. So we're going to say the post is equal to post.objects.get, and then we can get the ID equal to post ID, although actually this needs to be filter, not get. Okay, so we're looking for this post ID, and we'll grab the first element here. So we now need to check, first of all, if the post exists. So I'm going to say if post, and we'll say the post.author is equal to, and this will be the request.user, then we can delete the post. So we can say post.delete like that. And I think that's actually all we need to do to delete the post. All right, so that looks good to me. Let's just save this and let's go here and refresh. No, let's just do this. Now let's try to delete the post. And when we do that, the post goes away. Awesome. Okay, so deleting the post is now functioning. And yeah, there we are. All right, so now that we know how to delete the post, I would like to start setting up the different groups and creating a mod group as well as kind of an admin user who's allowed to ban different users. So let's see how we can do that. All right, so as I was saying, we're now going to move on to kind of the user management aspect of this tutorial where we start assigning users to different groups and looking at specific permissions. So we're going to create a new group. The group I want to start by creating is a mod group. I also want to make a default group. Now, the default group is going to be a group that has the ability to make a post, and the what do you call it here? The mod group will have the ability to delete anyone's posts. We'll then also have a super user or an admin. We don't need to manually make this because Django already has this notion of an admin, and this will have the ability to ban users. So mods can delete anyone's posts, but they can't ban users. Admins can delete anyone's posts and they can ban users. And then a default user will just have the ability to make posts and delete their own post. Now, with the default user, they will also have the ability to be removed from the default user. So if they get banned, they'll be removed as a default user. And that means they no longer have the ability to create posts. They can still delete their own posts, but they won't be able to make posts. So that's kind of what I'm going to set up here. And that will give you a good example of how to handle permissions, restrict page access, all of that type of stuff. So to do this is a little bit complicated because we need to first create a super user that we can sign into Django admin with, and then we need to make some groups. And I'll show you how to do it programmatically as well. But for now, what we're going to do is the following. We're going to type Python manage.py, and then we want to make a super user. So to do that, we're going to type create super user. Okay. So making a super user, we need a username. So I'll just go with tech with Tim. We need an email. I'm just going to have an empty email for the password. Let me type this in. Okay. Same thing here. And then the super user was created. So now let's rerun our server, Python manage.py run server. And now that we have this user, we can use it as a regular user account. So if I log out, I can sign in with my tech with Tim user. So let's do that. And notice this works fine because, well, the user's been created. However, I can also go to the admin page. And since I'm signed in as a super user, I'm able to view the admin page. Now, if you're not a super user, you can't view this page. So if I log out and now I try to go to /admin, it's going to prompt me to sign in with my account. And if I try to sign in with the regular Tim account, for example, that's not a super user, notice it tells me I can't do that. So I need Tech with Tim instead. Okay, so I'm signing in with Tech with Tim, and I have the ability to view different users and groups. So I can view them here, just like I can view them on Retool. And there's a lot of stuff you can do here in the Django admin panel, but I'm kind of treating this Retool application like my Django admin. So I don't want to spend a ton of time setting stuff up in here. I'd prefer to do it just directly on Retool because it's way easier to visualize and see. And later when we set up the different graphs and stuff, you'll see why it's easier to use kind of a drag and drop as opposed to programmatically add stuff to the Django admin panel. But I do want to mention that you can, add a bunch of stuff here and customize stuff in here. Now, to add a group, I can do it right here from Django admin, or I can do it programmatically. So let's do one here from Django admin, then we'll do the other one from, programmatically. Okay, so let's add a group. So to add a group, I just need to give it a name. So for right now, we'll have default. Now, we need some permission, right? So there's some permissions here related to posts. So I can just drag them in. So I can I can click on them. So for example, can add post. Let's add that permission. Now, can view post, we'll add that permission as well. But change post and delete post for now, we won't have that. So as we're viewing the permissions here, I just want to mention that every model that you add to Django, so custom model, in this case, the post model, it's going to create 4 permission objects for it by default. Those permissions are going to be add, view, change, and delete. And you can see that on all the models here, we have those default 4 permissions. Now, when I add a permission here to a group, that means that any user a part of this group has this permission. However, Django is not going to enforce these permissions for me. So it will know that this user has this permission, but it's not going to disallow a user from doing something if it doesn't have a permission. You as the programmer have to manually do that yourself. So you have to check if this user has this perm, and if they do, you allow them to do something, or you don't allow them to do if they don't have the perm. So keep that in mind. These are just permission objects. They're really just internally strings. They're saying, okay, this user has this ability, this user has this ability, then you as the programmer, you go in and you check those. Now, you can add your own permissions as well. For example, maybe you want to allow a user to update only the author of a post. Actually, that probably wouldn't make sense. Maybe only the description or only the title of the post. You don't want them to update everything. You want them to just be able to update one specific thing. If that's the case, you can make your own custom permission object, add that to your user, and then you can check for that permission object. I'm not going to show that to you here, but I will show you pretty much everything else. So how to check for the perms, and then creating them is relatively straightforward. Okay, so now that we have these 2 perms here, can add post, can view post, let's save this group here. And now we have the default group. And if we have a look, we can see what permissions they have, right? So to add a user to a group, we can do that from Django admin, I believe at least. So let's try here. If I go to Joey, let's see if I can add him to a group. So yeah, I can click this, move it over, and then I've added Joey into the group. That's fine. So let's hit save. And there we go. Now Joey should have those perms. So that's great. We can do that right here from Django admin. I will also show you how to do it directly from Retool, just so we can have everything on one page and kind of pick what we want to view. But of course, a lot of the stuff you can do from Django admin. Anyways, there we go. We've just created a new group. We've added a user to that group. Now I want to show you how you do this programmatically, because you're not always going to want to do this from the admin table or from the admin page. So let's close this. Let's go CLS. And I'm going to show you the code we'd write. Now, this is more complicated, but I think it's worth showing. So we're going to type Python manage.py, and I think it is shell that we're going to type. Yeah, so when we type shell, it's going to bring us into an interactive console, and we're going to start typing the following. So we're going to say from django.contrib.auth.models, we're going to import group, we're going to import permission, and we're going to import user. So we created that default user. Now I want to create the mod user, okay? So to do this, I need to import a few other things. Just bear with me here. I'm going to say from django.contrib. And then actually not auth. This is going to be content types, import, and then content type like that. No, why'd that go away? Come on. Okay, let's type this out again from django.contrib.content types, import content type. Okay, and then this is dot models. Okay, so we have that. Then we want to create a group. So to create a group, we do the following. We say mod created is equal to, and then this is going to be group dot objects dot, and then get underscore or underscore create, like that. And then we are going to say name is equal to, and then give it a name. I'm going to give it mod. So this is as easy as it is to create a group. So that should have created groups. Now if I type mod, you'll see we have group mod. And if I type created, we get true. So we've now created a group. Now that we've created a group though, we want to add permissions to it. So to add permissions to it, we first need to find the appropriate permissions. So I'm going to say CT, standing for content type, is equal to content type, like that, dot objects dot get underscore for underscore model. Okay, and then I'm going to say, actually model is equal to, and then this needs to be the model that I want to get the permissions for. So I'm going to type post. It's not going to work right now because I haven't imported post. So let's import that. I'm going to say from main dot models import post. Okay, and now when I run this, if I look at CT, my content type is main post. Now you'll see why we need this. Again, there's a lot of stuff I have to code before I get to like kind of the main part, but we're looking for the content type of post so that I can now get all of the permissions related to that post. So to do that now, I'm going to say perms are equal to, and then this is going to be permission, and then this is dot objects dot filter, and then this is going to be content underscore type is equal to CT. So now if I look at perms, we get a query set containing all of this. So what I can do is say perms dot, can I look at all? Okay, I mean, it gives me the same thing, but now notice I get all of the permissions related to my post. Okay, so I have the post for add, for change, for delete, for view. Now that I have all of these posts, if I want to add these permissions, now that I have all of these perms, if I want to add them to the group, I do the following. I say mod, which is my group, right? Mod dot, and then this is going to be permissions dot add, and then I pick the perm that I want. So if I want the ability to, we're going to say, I guess a mod can add posts, change posts, delete posts, view posts. I guess we'll give them access to all of them. I don't know if I can pass it all of them or not. Let's see. If I pass asterisk perms, I think that adds all of the perms. So let's now see this mod, and then mod dot permissions, and okay, I can't view all of those at once, but you get the point. So what I've just done here is I've added all of the permissions for my post to the mod group. Okay, so I've done that programmatically. And now let's see how we add a user to the mod group. So to do this, I need to get a user. So I'm going to say user is equal to user dot objects dot filter. We're going to say username is equal to, and then what was my other user? I guess we'll go to Retool to have a look here. I had, where was it? Users, let's refresh this, and let's bring this down, or let's just go next. We have Tech with Tim, Tim, and Joey. Okay, Tim, so that's the other user that we want. So let's go username is equal to Tim. Okay, so now we have our user, and what I can do is mod dot underscore, or mod dot user underscore set. And then this is going to be dot add, and we are going to add the user. All right, the reason I got that issue there is because I need to do user dot first, and there we go. Okay, again, I know that was a lot. You're going to have to probably watch through that again if you want to see all of the commands, but that is programmatically how you add a user to a group, as well as how you create a new group and how you add permissions to the group. So obviously it's way easier to do it from the Django admin console. But we imported these, okay? We create our group. That's how you create the group, by the way. Very easy, get or create. And then we had our content type. This is just so that we can actually get all of the permissions for a specific content type. We then had the content type. Okay, we had to recreate that to import it. We then get all of the permissions by filtering by the content type. That then gives us a list of all of the perms for that, in this case, post. And then what we can do is say mod.permissions.add. I did asterisk, which just stands for essentially all of the permissions. So I added all of those. Then I got the user that I wanted to add to the mod group. And then I wrote this mod.userset.add, and then user.first, just because that was a query. So I had to get the first element from. All right, a lot, I know. Let's quit though. Now we should have a mod group with the user Tim inside. So if we go back to Django admin here and we go to groups, we should see that if we rerun the server, so Python manage.py run server, we should see that we have that group. So let's have a look here. Okay, let's refresh, and we have default and mod. Nice. Now that we've done that, I just want to write something inside of Retool that allows us to easily add users to groups and to view what groups the users are inside of. So I'm going to change this here. So let's just make this full screen. So rather than viewing all of the tables now, we're going to be able to view all of the users, and then it has what groups they're in on one kind of straight line. So we'll write kind of a more advanced query to do that. So if we're looking at the different tables that we have here in Retool, we have auth user, which we know gives us all our users. We have auth user groups, and then we have auth user, auth groups as well. So if I go back actually to page 1, we have auth group, right? We have auth user and auth user groups. Now, all three of these tables allow us to determine what group a user is in, and this is actually good to look at. So let's write a new query here that is going to just get for us something else. So resource query, I won't name it for now, but I'm just going to select star from, and then this is going to be auth underscore group. And if I run this, you see that I get the following. I get all my groups, right? So I have default and I have mod. Okay, so that's how I get my groups. But the issue is this is not telling me what users are in the groups. What tells me that is auth user underscore groups. So if I save and run this, then notice that we have a bunch of IDs. So we have ID, user ID, and group ID. So it's saying the user with ID 2 is in group 1, and the user with ID 1 is in group 2. So that's not very useful to me. What I need to do is write a query that's going to tell me all of my users and then what groups they're inside of. So that's going to involve a few join operations. So let me show you how we do that. So I'm going to say select, and then I'm actually going to specify what columns I want. So in this case, I want the auth underscore user dot username. And I want to grab the auth underscore group dot name, or auth groups dot name, okay, because that's going to give me the name of the group. And for now, that's actually fine. And we're going to select this from the auth user table, but I need to join this with two other tables. So I'm going to say from auth user, and I'm going to left join this with the auth underscore users underscore group on the column auth underscore user dot ID equal to, and then this will be auth underscore users underscore group dot user ID. Okay, so let's go on like that. And sorry, let me actually remove this for now. And let's actually just select asterisks. Okay, so we'll do it one step at a time. I don't want to confuse you too badly. So we're selecting everything from the auth user table. We're left joining that with the auth users group. And then this is how we're joining it. So I'm saying, okay, I want to join every row that has the auth user ID equal to auth users group.user ID. So if I save and run this here, notice that we got auth users group does not exist. Is it auth user groups? I think that's what it's called. Let's try this. Missing from clause. So I just need to fix this one as well. So auth user groups like that. Let's try this and fingers crossed. Okay, so there we go. So now we have every single user as well as their group ID. Okay, so if we're looking here, right, we're getting all our user information like we got before, and now we get the user ID and the group ID as well. So what I now need to do is I want to have this group ID be associated with the actual name of the group. So I know this is a complicated query, but let's just continue it one more time. So now we're going to left join this again, and we're going to left join it with the auth underscore group on, and then this is going to be the auth underscore user underscore groups dot group underscore ID is equal to, and then this is going to be the auth group dot ID. All right, so now instead of selecting star, I'm going to select the auth underscore user dot username and the auth underscore group dot, and then this will be name. So let me run this. All right, and group, well, that's Groud. That should be group ID. Where did I type that? Group ID like that. Okay, let's save. And there we go. So now we have username as well as the group that they are in. And if we want to, we can say as group underscore name, just so it's not confusing. And there we go. Okay, so I know this is a complicated query, especially if you don't look at SQL, but we're just joining the tables together so we get the information that we want. So now we see user Joey is in the default group, Tim is in the mod group, and then Tech with Tim currently has no group. Now it has no group because he's a super user. So what I could also do is this would be auth_user dot is. We actually have something called is staff. And when we look at this now, you'll notice that Tech with Tim is indeed staff. So what I can do is view this in a table now. So rather than viewing all of the tables here that I have, let's change this. So instead of get tables, we're going to say get user _ groups like that. And then we'll grab that. So get user _ groups. Okay, and let's spell that correctly. And now we get our users and the group. And if we want to, we can rearrange these columns. So let me just drag this guy over here. So now we view the username, then the group name. Okay, I've made a mistake in the query. Sorry, guys. We need the as group name to be right here. Okay, that should be better. Yeah, username, group name is staff, and then we can move this up if we want, although we no longer really need this table. So let's get rid of this one, and we can continue to view the posts as we please. All right, so now that we have done that, I just want to make a quick form inside of here that allows us to change a user's group, just so you can see how that works inside of Retool. So to do that, let's drag in a form component. Okay, let's make this a little bit larger. And we just want to add 2 select items inside of here that allow us to select a user as well as to select a group that we want to add that user to. And then we have the submit button, so we can deal with that after. Okay, let's just make these go a bit further. All right, nice. So for the first thing, we're going to ask to select a user. So we need to have the label here as user. And then for this one, excuse me, we're going to have the label as group. Now we need these options to be filled in with the user's names and the optional group names as well, right? That we can add the user to. So to do that, we need a way to grab all of the users and populate them as these items. So what I'm going to do is go to the select component here, and I'm going to change map. And I'm also going to change the name here to be user, just so that we can access that data later on. And I'm going to select a source that I want to map this from. So here, if I were to select a query like get users, right? Now it's automatically populating a few things in here based on each item. But what I can do is have the value of item ID. Sure, that's fine. But change this to be item dot and then username as the label. So let's just get rid of that. And actually don't need that as well. It could just be that. Okay, and hopefully now I think it's going to show me my username. So if I click here, notice I get Tim, Tech with Tim, Joey, and then it shows the email as well for every single item. So kind of a cool thing. Let me go back here. Sorry guys, we need to click on the select item over here. So I've selected the get users query, which is the data I want to use here. And then I'm saying item.id. Item is just every item that I have in the array that's being returned here. I'm getting the item username, right? And the IDs we get 132, which is what we wanted for the users. And then the caption is the item.email, and that's fine. If I go look at get users, we're just selecting star from auth user. Now that's great, but for the groups, we want to get all of the names of the groups. So I don't know if I have a query that just gets the groups. I don't. So let's make a new one here. Let's call this, and we can say get _ groups like that. And to get the groups, I can say select asterisk from auth _ group like that. Let's just see what this one gives us. And notice we get the ID and the name. So I could do a similar thing for this select where I just get the item.name. However, I want to show you that in Retool, there's something called a JavaScript transformer. And what this allows us to do is actually transform data and kind of have it in whatever format we want using JavaScript. So if I want to get the group names, for example, I can do something like const data is equal to, and then I can say get _ groups dot and then data. And then I can say, okay, well, like let's let my return value equal an empty array. Let's loop through all of the entries that we have here. So let's say let I equal 0, I less than data dot length. I could say I plus plus, and then I can say something like let name equal data, and then this is going to be dot name at I. And if you hover over this, you'll see that the data that we have here is we have 2 columns, right? Or 2 keys. We have ID and we have name. Now name is an array, so is ID. So I'm accessing the name key here, and then I'm accessing the ith element in there. So I'm saying that's the name, and then I need the ID as well. So I say let the ID equal data.id at I, and then I can say rv.push, and I could push a tuple in here, or I could push an object like name ID, and then return rv. All right, so let me just make a quick change here. I need to say I.name.length, just because I was trying to access the length of the data, but it's keys, right? So that's not gonna work. So let's save this. And now if I preview this, you'll notice that I get my different elements, right? And it shows me the keys. So the reason you do something like this is if you want to transform your data into a different format. Of course, Retool can handle lots of different formats with the different components you have here, but I just wanted to show you that we have this transform. So let's call this get group names like that. And now if I go to the select component for the group names, let's go mapped, and let's just use the get group names. Okay, and then for the value, it'll be the ID, and for the label, it will be the item.name. And then if I select this, we have default and mod. So now that we have that, we just need to hook up this submit button so that when we press it, it will insert a new, user into a group. So the way I do that is I write a new query here. All right, so we have a new resource query here. Let me just call this insert user group, something like that. And remember that the table that we want to use to actually have the mappings between users and groups is going to be auth user groups. So what I can do here is say insert, and then this is going to be into auth underscore user underscore groups. And then the data that I want to insert here is going to be the following. Let me just look at my code here because I already forget. It's going to be user ID, and then this is going to be group ID. The ID will automatically be populated for us, and then I'll say values, and we need to access values from this form. So let's just change the title of this form and some other things here. Let's access this. Okay. So for our form, let me click on the form here. This is going to be called, I don't know, let's just call it user form. Okay. And then this is user. This select here needs to be group. So let's call that group. Okay. So the way that we do this now to reference the values inside of there is we write the following. It's going to be the name of our form, which is user form, and then this is going to be dot data dot, and then we have first the user, and then second we're going to have the user form dot data dot, and then the group. Okay, so that should actually be good. So now we just need to make it so when we hit this button, we run this query. So let's do that. If we click on the submit button, we can go and we can add an event handler. So where it says event handlers, we're going to say add. And we're going to say submit, trigger query. The query is going to be insert user group. Okay. And we can only run when a certain condition is true. Now, in this case, I'll actually write the condition, and I'll say when, and I guess we'll say user dot value does not equal an empty string. And when this will be the group dot value does not equal an empty string as well, just to make sure that we have some value inside of here. Now it's actually saying that's true. So let's say does not equal undefined. Okay, wait, what is the current value? It's, oh, null. Okay, so does not equal null. And this does not equal null as well. Okay, there you go. So now we won't try to enter or input something if that is null. And let's just add a title for the form. So form title, let's say change user group. All right, so we're just about ready to test this. I just want to add something though. So I'm going to go to this query insert user group, and I'm just going to add an event handler here. And I'm going to say when this is successful, right? Then we want to actually not trigger a query, but let's show confetti on the screen. So when this is successful, let's show some confetti. And let's say when there's a failure here, then let's not trigger a query, but let's actually show a notification. So we're going to show a notification, and I don't know how exactly it would show the error. But let's say error like that, and then the description can be, and let's see what it's saying here, insert user group dot error. Okay, so if there is an error, then we can display that. Nice. All right, so there we go. Let's save that. Okay, now let's try testing this out. So let's go here. Let's have Tech with Tim. No, I want this to be Tech with Tim. Come on. Tech with Tim. Select an option. Let's add to the default group. Let's hit submit. Okay, it's running, and then we get confetti, which means it should have been added successfully. So if I refresh this here, we should now see Tech with Tim is in the default group, which we do see. So that is indeed working. Awesome. Okay, so we've now added that form on Retool. We're now able to see our users. Now that we've done that, finally, let's go back to VS Code and let's have a look at how we restrict page access and, I guess, access to the model based on the permissions each user has. All right, so what we can do here to get started is make it so that you cannot access the create post page unless you have permission to make a post. So first we will have the @login required decorator, but we're gonna add another decorator here called permission required. So what I can do is simply add this permission required. And now, right before here, I can say @permission required, and then I need to put the string name of the permission. Now, the way you access the name or find the name is going to be the name of your app, which in this case is main, dot, and then you're going to have add, and then the name of the model. So in this case, post. Now, if you wanted to be delete, it would be delete. I believe update is update, and I think view would be view. Now, in this case, let's just go with, what was it, add post. Okay, then I'm going to say, the login URL is /login, so that if you don't have permission, it's going to redirect you there. And we're going to say raise exception equals true, so that this will raise an exception if you don't have permission, okay? And that's good for that. So let's just test this first of all and see now if we're going to be able to do this. So let's go here to Django and let's go to /, okay, like that. Let's try to post. And then we can create a post because we have that permission. Now let's log out. Let's create a new account that's not going to be in a group and that shouldn't have that permission. So let's go Susan. Okay, Susan at gmail.com. Okay, let me type in the password and again. And let's see here. Okay, and let's go to post. And notice we cannot create the post because we don't have that permission. Now, though, if we go here and we add Susan to that group, so let's just do a refresh here just so that the query is going to rerun. Okay, and now we should have Susan as a user here. Okay, so I just reran the query down here, and once I reran it, now it gives it to me. So I have Susan, okay? And then for the group, let's add them to the default group. Let's submit. Okay, it's going to take a second. Looked like that worked. So now let's go to post, and notice that I have the ability to make the post because I'm now added to the default group. Great, so that is working fine. Now that we've checked that permission, we want to make it so that mods have the ability to delete anyone's post. So to do that, I can go here inside of views, and where I'm checking if the post.author is equal to request.user, I can also check the following. So I'm going to say, or, and then I want to check if the current user has the permission to delete the post. So the way I do that is request.user dot, and then this is going to be, let me just find this, has underscore perm. And again, I can check main dot, and then this is going to be this time delete underscore post. Okay, so if the user has the ability to delete the post, then I will let them. Now, I want to do the same thing though in my template. So where I'm checking if the user is equal to post.author, I can also check. So we're going to say or user dot, and then what did I have? Has underscore perm. And this will be main dot delete underscore post. Now it might be a little bit different than that. So let me just check. Actually, it's going to be the following, sorry. It's going to be perms dot, and then let's go back here, main dot delete post. So I forgot, every single time you're in a template, you have access to this perms object, and this perms object will simply tell you if a user has access to a specific permission or not. So I'm saying perms.main, which is my main app, right? And then .delete post, and well, that tells me if they have that permission or not. Okay, straightforward enough. Let's save, and let's just go to Retool quickly, and let me have a look here again at what user's a mod. So Tim is a mod, so let's sign in as Tim. So log out. Let's go Tim, okay, log in, and let's see here. And well, okay, that's my own post, so I do have the ability to delete it. Okay, that was kind of a fail. Let's sign in as Tech with Tim and make a post just for testing purposes here. Let's say, hey world, okay. Hello, okay, post. Let's now log out. Okay, let's sign in as Tim, who is a mod. And I have the ability to delete someone else's post, and I guess I could try this. So let's try to delete Tech with Tim's post, and it works because I am a mod. However, if we sign in with Susan now, so let's sign in with Susan, you will see that we do not have the ability to delete Tim's post because, well, we are not a mod. And then, of course, the admin, they have, like, the admin user has permission for everything, so they'll already have the perm to delete other people's posts. Okay, hopefully that makes sense, but that's what we've just done. Now, though, we want to make it so that we can ban users. So banning users should only be done if you are a super user, right? So I will show you how we check that. So let's actually, after this if statement, add another, and we're going to say if, and this is going to be user dot, and then we'll say is underscore staff. Okay, so we're going to check if they are a staff user. If they are staff, then we can end the if statement. And inside of here, we're going to put the exact same thing, except this time, rather than having the button that's going to delete, we're going to have a button that says ban. So here we'll say ban user, and then rather than the post ID, this will be the user ID, and we're going to get the post.author.id. So that way we know what user it is that we're going to ban. So that's actually all we need for this. And again, this will only show if you're staff, and staff pretty much means you're a super user, or your group is a part of the staff group, although I haven't shown that. Again, there's so much stuff you could show with authentication and user management. Anyways, we've now handled that, so we should now have that button. So if I come back here, I'm signing as Tech with Tim, so if I refresh, I should see the ban user button. Nice. Now let's just add button and then warning, just so that this looks different, okay? Now let's come back and let's refresh. And now we have ban user. We could add a margin between them, but for now, I think that's fine. So now that we have that, let's go to views.py and let's handle what happens if we are going to be banning a user. So here when we're checking for a post request. Now the issue is another post request is going to be sent, but this one is going to have a different ID. Rather than post ID, it's going to be user ID. So we have post ID, we have post. So we're going to have to write kind of another if statement here and say if post ID, then do all of this. Otherwise, then we're going to try to get the the user ID. So we'll say user underscore ID is equal to request.post.get user ID. I'll say elif, and then this will be user underscore ID. Then I'm going to say the user is equal to, and this is going to be user.objects, not .get, but .filter. And we're going to filter by ID equal to user ID and then get the first user. And we're going to say if user and the current user, so and request.user dot, and not has perm, but dot is underscore staff, then we will ban this user. Now, the way that we ban this user is we simply remove them from the default group, because once they're removed from the default group, then they won't have permission to delete posts or to do any of that kind of stuff. We also could just remove a specific permission from them, but in this case, I'll just remove them from the group. So that way, if there's any other permissions we wanted to remove when they're banned, it would just be removed because they're no longer in that group, right? So I'm going to say group is equal to, and then it's going to be group.objects.filter, and it's not going to be user, it's going to be name is equal to, and then I need to find the default group, and I need to remove them from it. Now, we also need to import group. So I need to do that from here. So that's going to be from Django.contrib. It actually was showing it to me, .auth.models. We need to import user as well as group. So good job, we did that. Okay. Then where were we here? We have the group. Now we're going to say group dot, and this will be user underscore set dot remove. And we're going to remove the user from it. And there we go. Now, we also should remove them from the mod group just in case they're in that. So let's do this again. We're going to say group is equal to, and then this will be mod. And then the same thing, we'll remove them from the mod group. Now, I believe this will not crash if they are not in the group. We also could just put a try catch here, right? Or try accept. So we can just do that in case. So we can say try, accept, and just pass, okay? Because, well, if they're already banned, then banning them again, isn't going to do anything, so that's fine. And then accept, and then pass. Okay. So that is it for banning a user. Now, the one thing that we need to handle is that by default, when users are created, they're not added into the, sorry, I need to get out of this here. I can't get out of this damn terminal. Okay. So the one thing we need to do, sorry, is that when users are created, they need to automatically be added to the default group. So we're going to need to handle that because right now we have to manually add them, and I'd like to have them automatically added in. Now, doing this is not extremely simple. It requires that we go into our main config here. So we need to go to apps and main config. So inside of here, we need to write some code that's a little bit complicated, but I'll walk you through it. So I'm going to say from django.conf import, and then we're going to import settings, and we're going to write a method here called ready. Now, this is going to be called as soon as this app is registered and ready to use, essentially. And then inside of here, it's important that you do the imports in here. If you don't do them in here, you're going to get an error because you need to load the app first before you can import this. We're going to say from django.contrib.auth.models import, and then import group. And then we're going to say from django.contrib. Actually, not contrib, sorry, from db.models.signals import post save. Okay, we're now going to write a method inside of here, or a function called add to default underscore group, and we're going to say sender asterisk asterisk quargs like that, and we're going to say user is equal to quargs, and this is going to be instance. Okay, we're going to say if quargs, and this is going to be created, then we're going to say group okay is equal to, and that's going to be group.objects.get or create name is equal to default. Okay, and we're going to say group.user underscore set dot add, and we're going to add the user to it. Now I know this is a lot. We have one more line here. We're going to say post underscore save dot connect, and we're going to say add default group, and then this is going to be sender is equal to settings dot, and then this is going to be auth user underscore model. Okay. Whew, let me walk you through this. I know that's a lot of stuff to look at. So we imported settings, and then we're hooking into this ready method. Again, this will be called as soon as the app is ready. Then we can import these two things. If you try to do this before you put those up here, you're going to get an error. So make sure you import them inside of here. We're then writing essentially what we want to happen whenever the auth user model is created. So I'm saying post save.connect. Now that says, okay, after this model here is saved, what do we do? So every time we create a new user, we're going to call this function right here, and we're going to pass to it a sender as well as quarks. Now, inside of quarks, we're going to have an instance. The instance is the user model that was created. And we're saying if that user was successfully created, then we're going to check for the group default. So either get it or create it, and we're going to add the current user to that group. Easy as it is. I know it looks really complicated, but that's what's going on. And this happens again. We add this connector so that every time a new user is created, it's going to automatically be added to the group. It's kind of waiting for something to be saved. And then once it's saved, it runs this code, right? There you go. So that is how we do that. Now every user will by default be added to that group. And we are pretty much good to go. That's almost everything I need to show you, although we need to test the ban user feature and see if that works. So let's run our server here. So let's go actually back here. Looks like it's already running, so that's good. Let's now refresh. Let's log out, and let's create a new user and see if they are added by default to that group. So we can just go new at gmail.com. Let's type in our password. Okay, register. And now let's see if we can make a post. And we can because we were added to the default group. Nice. So let's make a post. Let's go hello world. What is up? Okay. Post. I'm very creative, I know. Let's now log out and let's sign in as our super user. Okay. And let's now ban new. Okay. So I've banned, I'm not getting any feedback because I haven't implemented that, but that's fine. So now let's go and sign in as new. Okay. And now let's see if I can make a post. And okay, I was able to make a post. So that was not working as I anticipated. So let me have a look at what's going on here and I'll be right back. All right, so I've found the issue here. The issue is that we did not actually ban the user, and I saw that because if I go to Retool here, you can see that new is still in the default group, so they were not actually banned or removed from that group. So what I'm going to do is go here and just change some of this code because I messed it up. So rather than objects We're going to do .get here for the group. So this is group.objects.get, and I can just say name, and then same thing here, .get. I think that should fix it because that's the only change I'm seeing for now. We also have if user and request.user.isStaff. There is potentially an issue with the user ID. So let's just have a look here in the home template and make sure we've done this correctly. Okay, so it is user ID, post.author.id. That should be fine. Let's try this one more time. We're going to try to ban the new user. So let's go here. Let's log out and sign in. Okay, and let's go to new and ban user. Now let's see if that worked. So let's refresh here. And notice new now has the default group removed. Okay, so that did work. Changes are all good. So now let's sign in as new. All right. And now let's try to post. And notice we cannot post because we have been banned. Awesome. Okay, so that is pretty much all I had to show you related to the groups and permissions. Now, this is a general introduction. Of course, I could spend like 7 hours showing you all the built-in features in Django. There's a lot more stuff with permissions, and I'm going to get you to reference the documentation to see how that works. But you now generally know how to restrict page access, how to show different features to different people, how to set up groups. I think I gave you a good amount of knowledge to get started here. So the last thing that I would like to do here is go to Retool, and I want to build out that dashboard that you saw at the beginning where we're able to see some, nice graphs. We already have this form that we made, but we can see the breakdown of users by their group. We also will be able to see the number of posts, number of registrations per day, a bunch of stuff that you can't easily add to an admin dashboard, right? So the admin dashboard is useful, but Retool can kind of replace that for you and just make it a lot more interactive and easier to see. So let's start building that out now. Let me just make this full screen. We want to add the following. So we're going to add a graph for the users by group. We're going to have one for new users per day, and then we'll have the post per user that we're showing, I guess. So to do that, let's grab some graphs. There's a bunch of different things you can see here, or charts, I guess you'd call them. So let's have this chart. Okay, let's insert another chart. Where was it? All the way down here. Okay, and let's add another one. So let's go chart, and let's drag that in. Okay. All right, so for this first chart here, let's change the data source to be, let's use the drop down here. This is going to be get user groups, okay? And we don't want a bar chart, we want a pie chart. And we want the value labels here to be group name. Now for the data set, we're just going to hit new here and sum. Now that's what this is doing. We have data series 1, okay, and the aggregation method is sum, which essentially means we're just going to sum all of the different groups that we have, right? So if we have 4 default users, add those all together, we get a value of 4, we display that in the pie chart. Null just means you don't have any groups, that would be like our admin users, and then mod, of course, is our mod user. So in this case, we have 3 default users, 1 mod user, and 1 null user. Now it is worth mentioning that these can overlap, like a user can be a default user as well as a mod. That's possible, of course, but that's it for the pie chart. Now we can add a title for this if we want and say users by group. Okay, nice. And now let's go to the second chart. So for the second chart, I'd like to see the number of new users we have per day. This one is a little bit more complicated to write, but let's do it anyways. So to do this, I'm going to write a JavaScript transformer because I need to write something that's going to give me essentially how many users I have per day, right? And that's, not trivial to write a query for. So let's have users per day. And the way we're going to get this information is we're going to look at the users table. So if I were to run this, and we're going to look at when they joined, and we're going to put a graph there. Now, this is a common thing you'd probably want to see some information about, how many daily average users you have. So let's write that. So users per day. So inside of here, we're going to say const rv standing for return value. And we're going to say 4, and we're going to get the date of, and then this is going to be the get users. So let's have get underscore users like that, dot, and then this is going to be date, not date, dot data, and then dot date joined. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to look at all my date joins. These are what they look like. I'm going to grab the individual date, and I'm going to push that into RV. Then I'm going to count how many of those dates exist, and however many of those dates exist, well, that's how many people on that day joined. So pretty straightforward, actually. Let me just write this out first. So string date is equal to date dot split. Let's split this at t, and then we're going to grab the first aspect of that. I don't know. Sorry, this is date, if that's going to give me a preview of it right now. Okay, it doesn't look like it. But then what I can do is just rv.push and push in the string date. Okay, and then just return the RV. So let's just save and preview that. And then notice this is what I get inside of my array. So now that I have this, right, they're all on the same day because I'm doing this, well, today, but I can just count how many of those there are, similar to the pie chart, and just display that on the chart. So here, rather than get users, let's use the drop down here and let's select users per day. And okay, that's interesting. That's not exactly what we wanted. We can remove some of these data sets because we only need one data set. So, all right, so for this chart here, I've just cleared pretty much everything in here, and I've selected users per day as my data source. Now I want this to be bar chart, and I need to make a new data set here. So I've cleared all those out, right? So now let's make a new one. This is going to be count, and what I want to count here is the following. So it's going to be users per day dot value. So we count how many of those we have, and then this is going to be users. Okay, so now that we have that, we need to make it so that we have some x-axis values, or what I guess we can't actually group by. We need some x-axis values. So the x-axis values here are going to be the users per day dot value. So all of those values that we have. Now let's just put this down on a new line just so it's a bit big enough that we can actually see it. Okay, what did it do to our other chart? We'll move that in a second. Okay, so I've kind of just rejigged this a bit so that's easier to see. But we have this graph here, right? And it's showing us that we had 5 users on March 18th. Now, of course, if we made more users, it would show them in different bars. That's fine for now. Okay, let's give this a title though. The title should be users per day, okay? And lastly, we want something that gives us the number of posts that each user has. So this is a little bit more complicated again. We need to write a SQL query that essentially will count the number of posts per user. So to do that, I'm going to say resource query. Let's have a new one down here. No, I want to save that, so let's save. For query 7, we're going to call this posts per underscore user. Now I can make this pop out, so let's just pop this out so it's a little bit easier to see. And we're going to say select, and we want username, and then we want to count the main underscore post dot ID as posts from, and then this is going to be auth underscore user, and we're going to left join on main post, which shows us our posts, right? And then this is going to be on the auth user dot ID is equal to the main post dot and then author ID. And we're going to group all of these by the auth user dot ID. Okay, so let's now save and preview that. And let's go here and actually make that a bit larger. Notice Susan has 1 post, Tech with Tim 0, Joey 0, and Jimmy 0. Jimmy, did I create a Jimmy user? I guess I must have accidentally created one. Or, oh, I'm using the wrong database. Sorry, let's go to Django tutorial. Let's rerun that, and that's better. Let me make sure that I wasn't using the wrong database on any of the other ones. Okay, no, it looks like I was using the right one. I just selected the wrong resource. Okay, rerun, and yeah, that's better. All right, so now that we have that, we're going to go to this chart here, and we're going to change this so that now it shows us, well, the number of posts per user. So we can say posts per user. Okay, for our data, this is going to be posts per user dot data. Okay, there we go. And then for x-axis values, those will be usernames, but we need a data set. And the data set that we want here, or data series, whatever you want to call it, I guess we can say that this is going to be posts. And we want to have no aggregation method because we've pretty much already done the aggregation method. And then this is going to be posts per user dot data dot posts. Okay, so then we get 00110. Okay, that's what we wanted. It's still showing us the passwords here. Let's change that. Okay, username. There we go. That's better. That's what I was looking for. Okay, that's what we have. So we have Susan, tech with Tim, new, Joey. We have Tim with 1 post, new with 1 post, and then the rest with 0. This is a bar chart. Of course, we could change this if we want. If we want a line chart, if we want a scatter plot, if we want pie chart, whatever you want. Although I guess what makes most sense is going to be bar chart. Nice. Okay, so now that we have done that, that pretty much wraps up what I wanted to show you for this video. So we created a cool Retool dashboard that allows us to view the users as well as what groups they're in. Allows us to view all of the different posts that we have. So I'm just viewing them in here, but we can also view them in kind of a graph format like this. We have the ability to actually make changes on our database. And of course, I can add other queries for other databases if I wanted to make this a larger dashboard and view some more things. Now, one thing you can do here is you can actually share this, right? So you can share this as an editor. So if you add people to your Retool organization, then they can come in here and edit the dashboard. You can allow people just to view the application who aren't editors, who are also in your Retool account or organization or whatever it is. And then you have public access. If you enable the public link, then you can give this to anyone and they can go in there and have a look. You could add password protection, whatever. So you can share this dashboard with people. And that's kind of one of the cool things, right? Is that you could make this for someone in your organization who is not technical, and then they can come in and everything's just done for them. They don't have to deal with Django admin. They don't have to set up a local project. They can, manipulate the database as they see fit. Of course, you can also preview this. So if you preview the application, then we can view it in this mode, which obviously looks a lot nicer. And I can use this as I would before, right? So I can navigate between here. I can change maybe new. Let's add you to the mod group. And if I do that, then here, if I refresh, it will show that now new is in the mod group. All right, so with that said, I am going to wrap up the video here. Again, all of this code will be available from the link in the description. Another massive thank you to Retool for sponsoring this video. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in another YouTube video.